There's more buzz about Donovan Mitchell as the Cavaliers season ended on Wednesday night, and it looks like Cleveland's offseason could be a tumultuous one. So can the Heat take advantage of that? Plus, exit interviews on free agents Haywood Highsmith, Delon, Wright, and Patty Mills. And can the Heat afford to trade Nikola Jovic? All that and more in today's episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, you are Locked On Heat, your everyday podcast on the Miami Heat, whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Odyssey, or your favorite podcast app. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day, Monday to Friday. I'm Wes Goldberg, editor at allyoucanheat.com, here with David Ramil, both of us credentialed Heat media members. Very excited about today's show. We've got our final round of exit interviews that we're going to get to in a minute, including what we want to see from Nikola Jovic going forward. But we are officially on Donovan Mitchell watch. We talked yesterday about Brian Windhorst's report that the Lakers and the Nets are preparing offers for Donovan Mitchell. And then today on ESPN, Zach Lowe said to keep an eye on the Heat. Quote, they've been connected with Mitchell over the years. They're lurking, and they have a lot of stuff to offer in terms of picks and young players. David, found it interesting that Zach Lowe said that the Heat have a lot of things to offer in terms of picks and young players. It's just the 2 first-round picks.
Yes.
The few, plus, on draft night, they could trade the pick in June. So it's sort of like 3 first-round picks that they're able to offer. And then they've got 3 second-round picks, whatever that's worth. And then the young players that we always talk about. It's Tyler Hero, it's Jaime Jaquez, it's Nikola Jovic. And that's pretty much it. But I guess the Heat are lurking, and that's not surprising to you and I. But what I found surprising was how just sort of their assets were characterized. What did you think about that?
Yeah, it sounds mostly positive, right? I mean,
right. Yeah,
it's been kind of a difficult year following the Damian Lillard failed acquisition and everybody kind of trashing what Miami's players, the reported Dame package and everything else like that. And maybe that's just a loud social media component, but I mean, media members even have been very negative about what Miami had to offer regarding Damian Lillard and what they could potentially offer regarding Donovan Mitchell too. Like even today, like, we posted something on the Locked On Heat account showing, that what we reflected yesterday that I believe that Donovan could win if that's what a priority was for him, that he could come to Miami. And there was a Bucks media member saying, "Oh, we've heard this story before, etc." So it's just interesting because again, it's not like this isn't competition with the other franchises or anything like that. I mean, it is at the most basic level, but it's not to say that what Miami could potentially offer for Donovan Mitchell doesn't have great value. And so I'm glad that Zach Lowe publicly said it, and it should be recognized as such. Like Tyler Hero is a good player. Like, is he a superstar in this league? Will he ever achieve star level status? Probably not, but he's a good player. Nikola Jovic has potential at 20 years old. Jaime Jaquez certainly showed flashes. And so I think when you look at that in combination with whatever draft picks Miami could include for Mitchell, it's a hell of a deal. It's a good potential package. It's not like it's going to overwhelm Cavs management, but I don't know that there's going to be an offer that could overwhelm Cavs management at this point.
Well, that kind of brings us to the next sort of part of this saga here. The Athletic doing the Now You Tell Us story that they have, by the way, every time a team is eliminated, the Athletic has some sort of dirt on whatever coach or player or GM that's involved in
Out of
sort
Miami,
of the eliminated
right?
team.
Out of Miami?
Not Miami. They didn't get the Miami one.
Miami.
Yeah,
Not
that's
Miami.
true. Good point.
I mean, yeah, it could have been, a nice column on Jimmy Butler trade requests or something like that, but no, nothing at all.
Nothing.
That's
Loose lips sink ships, baby. But nope, we got it from basically every team that's gotten eliminated except for the Miami Heat, and we got the Cavs. You texted me last night while the body was still warm, and it was a great way to put it. So they're reporting
this season had ended 5 minutes before, like the game just ended. And
no, they have, and all they do is push the button. That's all. They got it ready to go. They're like, boom, let's blow this thing up.
Enter. Yeah.
So a couple of things that came out of that report, though, were that that the Cavs have not given up on signing Donovan Mitchell to an extension, according to The Athletic. They also reported that Mitchell might want the Cavs to hire a new coach, fire JB Bickerstaff, and then trade Darius Garland in order for him to stay. I read that report, and I always say this. I say this every year around the trade deadline and around this time of the year too. When you read these things, think about who leaked it and who it benefits. And I'm reading that, and I'm like, who does this benefit? I think it benefits the Cavs management to report that they haven't given up on re-signing Donovan Mitchell. I think that's probably coming from Cleveland, I would guess.
Yep.
I think the whole Darius Garland part of it was almost blatantly reported. They said anonymous sourcing, but they also mentioned Clutch as a part of it. So that feels like it's coming from Clutch.
That's Rich Paul talking to somebody, Chris Fodor, or no, who is it who covers the Cavs and for the Athletic?
It was Shams, it was Sam Amick, and there was somebody else on the byline. So it's unclear who actually got that particular part of
Joe
the story.
Varden. He used to be
and
there.
Joe Varden, who's Cleveland connected. Yeah.
So that's it. So Rich Paul talked to Joe Varden during the last game there, and kind of mentioned, hey, just so you know, Darius Garland might want out here. So
and then from Mitchell, and then the part that they might have to fire JB Bickerstaff, and that feels
we really like him though.
Well, yeah, but that feels like that comes from Donovan Mitchell, right? And so you've got all these things, and look, that's just reporting. You're not going to just report one person's point of view, but you could kind of pick and decipher what part of this giant Now You Tell Us article is coming from where. And so now you have all these conflicting things. What did you make of it? Like, what do you think in terms of the Cavs and this idea that maybe they would do all these things? Would they fire Bickerstaff, trade Darius Garland in hopes of keeping Donovan Mitchell?
I don't know. You see, it was even kind of reported the other way, right? If Mitchell signs his extension, then Garland is going to want out. Like, isn't that how I think that's how a lot of people were inferring it. It's like, if Mitchell signs, it's like Garland's going to be, okay, no, I'm not interested in playing alongside Donovan Mitchell. And then there's also a simultaneous report, and I don't know if it was included in there or not, that Jaren Allen refused to take some kind of pain-numbing medication.
Yeah, I think
that he could have played through. Like, it sounds like it was a real crap show in Cleveland. Like, it's kind of unfortunate. Really, I mean, it does. Like, again, maybe.
Well, it looked like it.
Just.
I mean, this is all good reporting, but I watched that Cavaliers season. That team was so talented. You could just talk about like talent, the names, literally the all-star credentials that team had, the resume.
Sure.
The only team in the East that can rival that the resume of that roster was the Boston Celtics.
Right.
And
do you think it was really as tumultuous? I mean, that piece was, again, all this coming fresh off the heels of that Game 5 loss to the Boston Celtics, and all of a sudden it's just like, well, man, it seems like that locker room was in disarray and nobody liked each other, and they were just kind of waiting for the season to end. Finally, now the season's over. Now we can trash everybody openly or discreetly, but openly at the same time. Like, we don't really like Jaren Allen.
There is a little bit of
like
let's drum up the drama for the Now You Tell Us piece a little bit, but you've heard from people around that team that it wasn't also the most friendly. It wasn't the best situation in that locker room, that the Donovan Mitchell situation did loom over that team. And yet here he is, the best player on the team by far, like not even close. The best player in that series before he got hurt with the calf strain against the Celtics. He was playing, he averaged 30 points per game in the playoffs before he went down for the last two Cavs games. So I don't know. I do think that the Cavs, and I said this before, you don't just trade him for anything. Just because the Heat, the Nets, and the Lakers might have offers ready to go, you don't just go to the highest bidder and sell. There has to be a breaking point where you say, you know what, we'll just hold on to him because he's under contract for a year, and we don't really care. And maybe we will, and maybe that does force us to move Darius Garland, and maybe we do trade Jared Allen. And I'm like, hey, Evan Mobley just scored 33 points. He's a good player. He kind of leveled up a little bit in these playoffs. Like, we've got Mitchell for a year. We still have Evan Mobley. And whatever we trade those other things for, we can round out the roster with those pieces. Like, who knows, So, but I do think that going back to the Heat part of this too, I don't know. I look at those offers that the Lakers and the Nets could put together hypothetically. I think the Heat's offer is just flatly better. I think it's flatly better. And if Donovan Mitchell tries to navigate his way to Miami, which he could do by backchanneling, say, hey, I'll sign an extension with these teams. I would not sign an extension with these other teams. Then maybe that's something that helps Miami.
Now, could Miami kind of piggyback on the reported or semi-reported disarray in that locker room and with that roster and say, you know what, maybe Donovan does resign and he gets his money, and then who knows what happens down the road. But for now, could you make an interesting offer to acquire Darius Garland, which might not sacrifice enough of as much as Miami's assets? Could you go after Jared Allen, who's a pretty talented big man in his own right, to play him alongside Bam Adebayo? Like, are there other players on that Cavs roster that you might be able to pick clean because they have to make some kind of a move if they wind up leaning all in and Donovan winds up accepting his extension?
It's plan D and E, probably, right? I don't love the Garland fit in Miami. Like whatever you would have to get rid of. I don't know that I think you need a scorer. Garland's not a scorer. They have the Heat have enough guys who pass the ball when they're wide open for a layup. Like there's enough guys on the roster who do that already. But I like Jared Allen. I think he's a good player. And if Bam really is going to incorporate the 3-point shot, that's like a rim rolling, rim protecting center makes a lot of sense in terms of improving the roster and making things easier on Bam. So yeah, maybe. But again, plan E, D. That's not how the alphabet works. D, E, F, G. Not plan A, B, or C.
But I mean, but maybe it should be. Okay, how about this? Maybe we're going to talk about Donovan Mitchell a lot. And for people already who might express some frustration, I don't think there's that many of them. It has to be talked about. This is the news of the summer so far. And again, the NBA regular season playoffs are still taking place. And yet we have to talk about this because Miami is going to be so heavily involved. Having said all that, is the pursuit of Donovan Mitchell, however it plays out, similar to Damon or completely different, should Miami just kind of pivot and say, you know what, we went with plan A before, we went with plan A last offseason and it didn't work out. Should we move forward to plan D, E, and F and maybe look to acquire Jared Allen and not have to give up Jaime or Nikola Jovic?
I think that's worth a little bit more of a conversation. Let's get into that after the break.
All right. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs. They've got the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Who doesn't love free? And believe me, it's so convenient. And I've been there before where you have to find somebody, you're trying to hire somebody, you taking all these resumes, you have to post a job, you have to make sure you post it in the right place. It's stressful. You've got your regular workload and now you're doing all this hiring too. Who wants that? Who wants that hassle? With LinkedIn, it's just not another job board. What's that?
Not me.
No, of course not. Who does? Nobody
does.
Chipping,
just chirping.
Yeah, LinkedIn has the vast network of more than 1 billion professionals. It makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get qualified candidates within 24 hours. Yours could be next. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats, it might not have the time or resources to hire. Cut out all that time wasting and everything else. Find the right person for your job. Quickly and for free. Who doesn't love that? 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Yours should be next. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and on your favorite podcast app. That's a good point that you brought up before we get to our exit interviews. Before we went to that break, look, the Heat cost themselves last summer by waiting on Damian Lillard to an extent, right? Guys like Kristaps Porzingis got traded. Other players got traded other places. There's things that maybe Miami could have done. Instead, they missed out on Damian Lillard. They went into training camp not knowing who their starting point guard and who their starting power forward were going to be. Right. And I think that was something that really impacted the Heat, at least early in the season, as they sort of tried to figure those things out. And I do think there's something to be said about, okay, we're not going to wait forever on this Donovan Mitchell thing to play out. I also get the sense, though, from Cleveland, I think that Portland situation was so unique, where this is a little bit more cut and dry. I don't think the Cavs would want to, if they decide that they need to move on from Donovan Mitchell, I think they're going to want to do it relatively quickly, or they're just not going to do it. And
Donovan doesn't have a time frame for that, right? He could just kind of take all summer to decide whether or not he wants.
If they were going to trade him, they could do it up until the deadline in February. Yeah, I mean, but I just think that Cleveland would almost it would make more sense for them to do it quickly, because if you're gonna, that's a good team, right? Portland was rebuilding. That was hit the button, blow it up once you traded Damian Lillard. It didn't matter when they did it. If you're Cleveland, you're retooling around Evan Mobley like that. You could trade Mitchell and still be a good basketball team. So it makes more sense to do it quickly. But I don't know. But if for whatever reason it did linger, I do think that that's something that the Heat would have to consider. Is look, we just can't wait on this anymore, and we've got to make the moves that we need to make. Otherwise, whether or not that's Jared Allen or something else, it's something that they would at least have to consider doing. But That's a tough place to be. And also they have to deal with like the Jimmy Butler extension. Like Miami's got like a lot, like these are things that he did not have to deal with last summer. Last summer, it was kind of just like you have one assignment, get Damian Lillard. Now they didn't do it, but it was the only thing that they had on the to-do list. We kind of knew that they were going to let Max Strus and Gabe Vincent walk, right? Like they had a price point set, and they pretty much, and it was going to be lower than what they got on the market. Eventually, those guys went away. This year, it's like they got the Jimmy Butler extension hovering over them. So there's a lot of sort of plates spinning on sticks, and the Heat are just trying to hold them all up right now.
Red Panda? Is that a Red Panda reference?
I think so.
Why hasn't she ever been at the Kaseya Center? I know we have Heat front office people. What? Get out of here. Get out of here. You can't afford to bring Red Panda in there. Give the people of Miami some great entertainment.
We finally got T-shirts in a first-round series. So, like,
I know you're listening. Please bring me in Red Panda. We love Red Panda.
You bring back Flow Rider too while we're at it. If we're making requests here, I'm all in on that.
Is he banned? He's not banned.
No, right? You should play more. That's all.
He
comes occasionally, but
they lean
once
into
a
DJ
week.
Khaled.
I don't ask for much.
We got our rapper. We hit our quota, I guess. I don't know.
I'm in. Let's get to our exit interviews.
The season Pat called me in his office, and I sit down, and he looked dead into my eyes, and he's like, "Son, you need to be better. We didn't pay you for this."
We're starting with Nikola Jovic. The headline from the season for Nikola is the Heat found the perfect front court partner for Bam, or did they?
Oh, yeah.
Just because he might get traded.
Yeah.
If we're to believe that all these trade reports, and it's a tough situation for the Heat to be in. We don't need to go deep into that right now, but it does sort of feel like, hey, this is a really cool thing. His development was incredible from the beginning of the season to being a starter in the playoffs. You and I are big fans of Nikola Jovic. He's a fan of the show, friend of the show. So you'd hate to see him go, but still remarkable regardless of what happened. The development that he showed this season. Was this season on the Flanagan's menu a black and tuna hoagie? Was it rib rolls? Was it potato skins? Or was it chicken wings?
Rib rolls, as expected. I knew he was
really. Oh, come on.
Yes. No. What are you talking about?
You make this a victory lap?
Last summer, I said he should be the starting point guard of this team. Like, I mean, we saw the skill set and we saw what he could do during the summer with FIBA, and we were like, oh, it's going to translate over, and then it didn't. Like, he didn't get any playing time. So you know how the Heat operate. You know how Spo operates specifically. It's like, show me in practice, put in the work, put in a gazillion hours a day behind the scenes, and then I can finally trust you to go out there and compete. And that's exactly what Nico did. So credit to him and credit to Spo for recognizing it. And I think that's kind of how it played out over the course of the season. And look, he got his little stint in Sioux Falls. It didn't really pan out. He didn't pop there, but he kind of had to continue to work and improve. So to me, I thought it was going to play out somewhat similarly to this. I didn't know he was going to make the kind of leaps he did defensively and as a rebounder, because I think those were the greatest areas of need. But in terms of his offensive output, yeah, I think it was pretty much online with what we saw from him last summer.
The FIBA World Cup stuff was cool. The FIBA World Cup ain't the NBA, dude. Like, I saw that. I'm like, all right, cool. You made a few threes over the summer in World Cup play. Wow. Like, congrats. But I wasn't expecting what we saw from him this regular season. That was totally a black and tuna hoagie. That was surprising, what we saw from Nikola Jovic. That was surprising to me. I did not picture that by the end of the season, if you would have told me at the beginning of the season, this is going to be the starting power forward in the playoffs, which I know the Heat were injured, but he would have been there if Jimmy Butler was playing anyway. He would have been the starter in that first round.
We talked about that
as a hypothetical.
Yeah, we talked about it as I mean, you have Caleb Martin or Haywood Highsmith or Kevin Love as your other options. Like that he would emerge as that.
That's fair. I'm surprised that it was a quality option and not the only option.
Okay. It wasn't Luke Babbitt 2.0.
What does Pat Riley tell him in the meanest way possible when he's in the office for his exit interview?
Okay. I don't even know if you're going to be here for training camp, but you're going to be old enough to drink a beer. You should be old enough to play defense for 48 minutes. And when you get to Paris this summer, tell Jokic that Mickey will buy goddamn Gulfstream Park for him if he ever comes to Miami.
He likes the horses.
He does
like the horses.
The whole place for.
Summer plans. Keep getting stronger and spend as much time around the Heat facility as possible. He's going to watch film. He's going to do all these things. This guy needs to spend as much time around Caron Butler, Malik Allen, Wayne Ellington, Eric Spoelstra when he's not doing the Team USA stuff, Chris Quinn if he's not the Lakers head coach by then. All these things around veterans who are around there, around Bam Adebayo. This guy just needs to soak up as much knowledge through osmosis as possible, in addition to the weight training and the skill work and the film work and all that stuff. Like, just be around vets. And kind of try to soak up as much knowledge as possible.
I wouldn't expect that to be the case though. Like, he's got his commitment to the Serbian national team. Like, I don't know how realistic that might be.
Yeah. I just said as much time as possible.
Next 2 weeks.
A couple weeks, if that's what's possible. Haywood Highsmith, Delon Wright, Patty Mills, their exit interviews are next.
Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, whether it's superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. We'll be right back.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and on your favorite podcast app. Thanks to everybody who tuned in this week. What a great week of shows. Donovan Mitchell stuff. We're officially on Donovan Mitchell watch. We did our exit interviews. If you missed any of them, we did Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, Terry Rozier, Duncan Robinson, Kevin Love, Caleb Martin, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Eric Spoelstra. If you missed our interview with the great Will Manso, that went up on Wednesday. You can find that in your podcast feed and on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Ring the bell to be notified when new shows go up. Leave a 5-star rating and review on your podcast app. All right, let's get through the final round of exit interviews. Let's start with Haywood Highsmith here. Headline from the season: after a strong season, will Haywood leave the Heat high and dry, Smith?
Ooh. Wow.
Went New York Post on you. Good season for Haywood. Love the shooting, love the defense, love all the stuff that he brings to the table. And he made himself some money this summer. He will be a free agent. The Heat will have the opportunity to bring him back. He'll probably be cheaper than Caleb Martin, who we figure is probably gone because the Heat can't really afford him, depending on other things that happen. So, but can you bring back Haywood Highsmith, I think, is a real question. I think there's a lot of teams in the league that'll be looking for guys who can make threes at a decent enough clip, even though he's a little streaky, but defend at the level that he defends at. Was his season surprisingly good? Was it black and tuna hoagie? Was it rib rolls? Was it potato skins? Or was it chicken wings?
I'm going to go inconsistent chicken wings there. I think he had some bright spots. He went through injury. Was kind of playing in and out of the lineup there. We saw games where he started, and then there were games where he sat and didn't play for long stretches. And I think he was, never able to be at 100%, and he wasn't quite the impactful player that people expected him to be consistently enough, at least not to my recollection. I mean, you can't count. It's unfair. It's unfair on Haywood, because he's put in the work and everything else. But again, he was only supposed to be a role player for this team. He should not have had to play as large a role as he was expected to, but even in those moments, I don't know that he necessarily lived up to that expectation. So to me, I would have it as an inconsistent season from him.
I have it as rib rolls. I thought he did basically what I expected.
Fair enough.
I mean, my expectations weren't all that high for Haywood Highsmith. I knew what he was going to do. He was going to probably get a little bit better as a three-point shooter. He did. And he was going to play great defense, and he did. And that's what he did. What does Pat Riley tell him in the meanest way possible?
Oh, there we go. You're guaranteed to play as long as Jimmy's on the roster. Do you want to be next season's Gabe Vincent? Be realistic. Take what we could give you, and at least you won't have people threatening your family on social media.
Summer plans. Go get paid, Haywood. You earned it. Delon Wright. Headline from
will
his
he get
season.
paid? Will he get paid? I mean, I know we'll talk about it, but we mentioned that it was cheaper and
that's a
everything
good
else like
point.
that. I don't know that people are going to be looking at Haywood with his size and everything else. And yeah, he went through Heat culture and he's been part here of what they've been able to accomplish for the last couple of seasons. But
He's
I
not
mean,
getting
again,
he's not getting the
he didn't
mid-level exception. I don't think. Like
yeah,
he's like
he
that
didn't
not
pop like Caleb either.
yeah, he's not getting the
know?
Caleb, he's not getting Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, Max Strus money. He's not getting that. But he was on the minimum. I think he could probably sign for something a little bit higher than the minimum, like a portion of the taxpayer mid-level, $4 million a year, something like that. I mean, it's double what he was making last year.
Right.
So wherever that money comes from, go get paid, Haywood. Maybe it's Miami.
Sure.
I'm not ruling that out. It very well could be that. And hopefully for the Heat, that market isn't necessarily out there and he's cheaper to bring back. Headline from Delon Wright's season. I wanted to see more. It was a little, he obviously was the buyout option, came in the middle of the season, played that one game in New Orleans where the Heat were really shorthanded and then wasn't up to Heat level conditioning. After a couple weeks, got to Heat level conditioning, got on the court, had some great moments, but I would have liked to see more, and I would still like to see more from Delon Wright, but that kind of gets into what we'll get to here in a second. Was his season blackened tuna hoagie, rib rolls, potato skins, or chicken wings?
I think it was rib rolls as expected. Yeah. Like he had some productive moments there. I mean, he was a starter elsewhere, but he was brought in late, and we just didn't get, unfortunately, enough of a chance to really see what he could do. But I hope that he does come back, because I think he's that kind of player that Miami could use as a veteran role player for an affordable price.
I could be talked into. I think I agree with you on rib rolls, but I could be talked into potato skins here. Just because
disappointing,
because he didn't play for the couple weeks, and I would have, like I said, I kind of just wanted to see more. I'm not the person that says that Eric Spoelstra should have been playing him or starting him or anything like that. I don't. Delon Wright playing more minutes or starting or playing more games would not have made the difference this season. The Heat still would have lost in the first round to the Boston Celtics. Once Jimmy Butler got hurt, it didn't matter anymore. So that's sort of what it was. What does Pat Riley tell him in the meanest way possible?
Look, it's not like the phone's going to be exactly ringing off the hook this summer. But, even if things don't work out with Donovan Mitchell, we'd still love to have you back for as little money as possible. And say hi to Darrell for me.
I think even if they get Donovan Mitchell, I love Delon Wright as another option, sort of a defensive-leaning option. He could play next to Donovan Mitchell. It wouldn't be my starter, but, as you get through your rotations, there's, you could play those two guys in the backcourt together because Wright is a good defender. Summer plans, just re-sign in Miami on the minimum. No fuss. That's your plan, Delon Wright. I'm taking care of it for you. Just re-sign to Miami on the minimum. You want to stay here. Last one to wrap up our exit interview series. Let's go to Patty Mills. The headline from the season, it's not 2014 anymore. What's his season? What Flanagan's menu item was his season? Black and tuna hoagie, rib rolls, potato skins, or wings?
Disappointing, but unfairly so, just because, we were kind of hoping for that Kevin Love type impact as an older veteran player, but he did not have that veteran impact.
I see where we're coming from. To me, it was rib rolls. I never had high expectations. I wish I could say I wish I could say I watched Patty Mills for the last couple of years, but I didn't, because he didn't play.
Nobody did. Yeah,
right. So to expect him to come in and have some sort of huge impact, I just never expected that. And the fact that he was playing any minutes was only because the Heat were so injured down the stretch there. What does Pat Riley tell him in the meanest way possible?
Thanks for doing your best. I still hate your cuts.
Summer plans, retire. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us on your podcast app. We'll be back next week.